Hey everybody, how you doing? This is Jim Grzanzio from the Oracle Groundbreakers team, and we're back for some more conversations tonight. I have with me Loiane Groner, and Loiane is one of the speakers on the Oracle Groundbreakers India Yatra, which is a 3-week conference that's wrapping up this week, and we're going to hear about what she's talking about at the event. Loiane, hi, how you doing? Welcome to the program.
Hi, Jim. Well, thanks for having me.
It's very nice to meet you. I've seen your name around a lot. I follow you on social media, and I've heard about you, but never actually met you. I'm sure we've mixed in conferences, things like that. But so when I saw your name on the schedule, I said, "Oh, cool. We can," because I'm trying to specifically reach out to new people, and I knew about 20 or so speakers, but I did not reach out to them. I reached out to all new people. So I just want to make new friends, basically. So before we get into some of these subjects here, I actually have a bunch of notes in front of me to help me out mostly. Can you just give a little bit of a summary of like a minute or two about who you are, what you do?
Well, I am a Brazilian, but I live in Florida right now. And I work as a software engineer at Citibank. And I've been working with the technology industry for a little bit more than 14 years. The majority of it as a Java developer, but I also do a little bit of front-end development with JavaScript and some of the frameworks. I'm also a Oracle Groundbreaker ambassador and a Java champion.
Cool. Sounds really interesting. With a whole bunch of these things we're going to discuss. Okay, so you mentioned Java and JavaScript. So I see the name of your talk is FullStack Reactive with Spring and Angular. So let's talk about that. What's up with that?
So for the majority of my career, so a little bit more than 10 years, I've been working with Spring as a backend framework for the Java applications that I have been working on. And in the latest version of Spring, which right now is currently version 5, they also released a new module, which is the Spring Web Flux, or as we've been calling it, the Spring Reactive or Reactive Spring. So this brings us another level of tools that we can have when developing Java applications with Spring. So until now, we had the Spring MVC, which is very popular, but now we also have this new tool, which is going to allow us to create, as we call, reactive applications. We've had reactive programming in Java since Java 8 when they have introduced the Streams API. So we are able to use reactive programming with Java and also with the Spring MVC. But now we have a new way, which is a reactive design. So all our application can be asynchronous. So whenever we are doing a request to the service in the backend, so let's say you want to get a list of data from your service. So usually, depending on your client, the request with the client and your service might be asynchronous. But whenever this request reaches the service, it starts a synchronous code, even though you're using reactive programming with streams and or any other library in Java that allows you to do that. So basically, you go through, for example, your controller, your service, and you hit the database, and then you have to trace back where you came from until you send it back whatever it was requested at the beginning. So this is the whole idea of having a reactive design, because now all these steps from receiving the request in your controller in your endpoint until you reach the database and ask for data and retracing all these steps back, everything is asynchronous. So this brings us to a whole new level of what the things that we can do with the services and the programs and the applications that we have to develop. And this is one part of what I'm going to talk about in my session at the conference. And the other part is also, since we're talking about full stack applications, So right now we have a reactive design with our backend, with the Java code. So how can we consume this data, and how can we connect a client application that was written with JavaScript, a little bit more specific with Angular, which is another framework that I also work with. So how we can join both of these worlds, these different technologies. So at the end, we have both the backend, the Java application as a reactive design, and also our client application written with Angular, also in a reactive design.
So it sounds like, and you're going to correct me if I'm wrong here, but it sounds like with the reactive design, this just makes development easier. I mean, it sounded like there was a simplification process here when you mentioned that now we can do all these things. Presumably, you could do now additional things as well.
Yes and no at the same time. This requires a change in the way that we're thinking, because so far we have been used to writing imperative code, right? You can use streams as well, and that shifts a little bit more to the reactive paradigm. But now we have everything that we're going to do is going to be asynchronous. So for the point of view that we are reading the code and trying to understand the code, it makes it a little bit easier for us to read and understand the code. However, when we have to maintain the application later, we have a few other challenges, such as debugging. So right now, this is kind of like a new world. So as you know, in technology, even though this has been the industry for a little while, but we still have to develop the tools and still get used to how we try to debug the applications and try to find possible bugs, and also testing. So that part, it's a little bit more challenging than just writing and reading the code.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I'm glad in this conversation that it's me asking the dumb questions and not you. So this is obviously a session for it's obviously a session for developers, and it's a session for primarily Java developers. Ordinarily, in the Oracle Groundbreakers India Yatra, the vast majority of content is database content, and things like cloud, things like this. They have a full day of Java. Actually, you're probably a part of it, obviously. How did you get involved in this conference that was so heavily focused on your database?
Well, since I'm part of the Oracle Groundbreaker Ambassador Program, we usually get emails, conferences they are asking for, like they are open for call for papers. And we got an email saying, so, hey, this is a conference, this is online. So right now in the current scenario that we're living with, we can't travel. So, and this was an opportunity for me to be in this conference. So I sent a few sessions, and this one got accepted. So this is an opportunity for me to interact with different people. This is my first time being at this conference, and we'll see how it goes.
Cool. So it hasn't happened yet, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I actually remembered it was toward the end of the event. Well, I'm really glad that you're presenting. Actually, I'm just glad they have a whole day on Java. It's very, very good, and I'm sure they're going to appreciate it. These are very smart developers, and they're very interactive. I mean, it's a mix of developers and your DBA. Actually, DBA people. You mentioned a different way of thinking. Is this? We have to look at this in a slightly different way in terms of this development. Is this something that in general developers are picking up pretty rapidly, or is it taking some time?
Yes. As I mentioned before, I see this as a new tool, right? So as in every tool, we have certain scenarios that we can apply that's going to work best. But we still have the existing set of tools that we as a Java developers that we have to build and create applications, so we can still also use that. So depending on the scenario, so there are several constraints that we have to review before we make sure that this new approach is the right one for our applications. So one of the questions that we usually get whenever we are talking about this is, do I have to rewrite all the programs or the applications that I have right now in production so it starts using this new approach, this new way? And the answer is no. If you're not having any issues, there is no reason for you to just rewrite everything and start using the new Reactive approach. The new reactive approach is more when you have, for example, a lot of requests and you need more real-time scenarios, and you need to scale more your application. So if you don't have all these issues nowadays, there is no reason for you to start using a new one. One of the reasons that this new tool, this new technology, the reactive way for the design of the application was created, because right now we have several things that we do per minute on the internet. So we're watching YouTube videos, we're on social media, we're watching movies and TV shows. So all of that, we're consuming a lot of data. And imagine how many users right now are accessing and uploading videos to YouTube or sending a tweet. So that's millions, right? So.
Yeah. It's unimaginable data. When you actually see some of this stuff, it's how it doesn't break, I'll never know.
That is right. So of course, not all projects that we work with, it's not a Twitter, it's not a YouTube, but there are certain projects in the corporate world, in the enterprise world, that they need a little bit more than what we have right now. So for these specific scenarios, this new reactive design, it's going to be a good fit. And we can also, let's not forget, because when we talk about reactive programming and reactive design, it seems that it's something new, right? But it exists, it had always existed. So we have queues when we're talking about MQs, we have the actor model. So all of these patterns and architectures, they are also reactive. So we're just trying to modernize a little bit more when it comes to the APIs that we are developing for the services in our applications.
Cool. All right. Sounds interesting. In that, so earlier on, you also mentioned that you're a Java champion and Oracle Groundbreaker ambassador. And I've only spoken to, I think, one other Java champion and one other Groundbreaker ambassador. So let's talk for a few minutes about those two programs. First, the Java Champions program. This is a program that, from what I know, came from Sun a long time ago, but I don't know the details about it beyond that. How long have you been involved?
The Java Champion, I am a kind of new member. I joined this year,
okay.
But I've been working with Java for 14 years in my career. It's been 10 years that I have been involved with the community since I started blogging like 10 years ago. It was, I have no words to describe how happy I am to be part of the program with a lot of people I admire and have been mentors to me and inspiration as well to my career.
Yeah, there's a lot of pretty serious names on that list, and I'm fortunate to know a few. And then there's the Groundbreaker Ambassador program, which is slightly a different program, whereas the Java Champions is more of a community. It's a community that's not necessarily tied right to Oracle, right? Slightly more independent. Whereas Groundbreaker Ambassador is more focused on cloud technologies, open source, things like this. So how long have you been involved with that?
In the Oracle Groundbreakers, it's been 2 years or 3 years
Oh,
for
okay.
now. So I joined a little bit in the, I'm not sure if it was in the beginning of the program, but it's been 2 to 3 years that I've joined. And yeah, it's slightly different. I do use my knowledge from the Java world and also the JavaScript world. And nowadays, since we have cloud, and also it changed a little bit the way that we program, because before we didn't have to think about deployment. You only write your program, but depending on where you're going to run your application and how you're going to run, what's going to be the architecture of your infrastructure, you have to think about those details whenever you are creating your project. So it I like this way to changing and upgrading. I like to say like it's an upgrade in the knowledge and the tools that we work with and applying to things that we have been using for years, but now we have to make things slightly different in order to be able to use with this new set of tools and technology.
Interesting. Okay. So obviously, everybody I talk to is involved in the community in one way or another, whether it's Java or database or cloud or open source or Linux. I mean, I talk to a lot of people, and that's what's most interesting about this job. I don't have to know anything. I just have to be able to talk to people, because I'm mostly interested in them as people much more than the technology itself. But talk to me a little bit about the community, because you obviously, I mean, you've been speaking about it already, and you're sort of glowing about it, right? I mean, it seems to mean a lot to everybody I talk to. You guys, you work together, you collaborate. You've got colleagues all over the world. You do development that's distributed all over the world. There's I just find the whole process fascinating, and that why doesn't that ethic pervade other industries as well? I mean, engineering, software development is clearly community based. Even sometimes if it's a closed source technology inside of a company, there's still code reviews. There's still collaboration. There's still this ethic of collaboration, which is not true in every single industry I've worked for. So what are your feelings on the community in general?
For me, it's something that it's a must-have in my life and also in my career. Throughout the years, I made so many friends because of the community, right? Not going to meetups and user groups. When I started, there was only user groups, and now we also have the meetups, a more fancier word to the user groups,
Yeah.
and also to the conferences. This part, I think, exchanging knowledge, exchanging information, it's something that it's very rich in a sense that you can expand your ideas and the way that you think as well, learn new things that you did not even know that existed or it was possible, even though you're not going to use that in a daily basis. But whenever you go to a conference and you attend a session, even though you're not going to use that in your daily job, but at least you know that it exists. And maybe someday when you are in a particular scenario, you're going to need it. And also talking to people and meeting new people, you know what they are being up to, what they have been using, what technologies they are interested in learning, what kind of problems do they currently have. So exchanging this kind of information, I think it's very rich for us. It's something that I really cannot describe the meaning of that. And another thing that also helped me a lot, I mean, being part of a community helped me a lot in my career. So when I started blogging, I had the opportunity to write a book, publish a book. So this is something that I never imagined that I was going to be able to do that. So just being part of and sharing knowledge, that was a big opportunity for me. And also going to new places and places that also I thought before that I was never going to have the opportunity to go, and because of community and conferences, it was that I was able to do. So I think this is it's something amazing that we have in our industry. And also, as you mentioned, even inside the companies, we have the code reviews, and we also have a few people that, even though they are not sharing their knowledge in conferences or blog posts or videos, they have their own meetups, and they share, they collaborate with each other, trying to solve the issues that they have, and also trying to expand the horizons and the technologies that they might use.
Yeah, I mean, so you mentioned internal. So I'm going to start that over again. You mentioned internally. So I used to work for Solaris at Sun, and I remember distinctly when a new employee, so when a new engineer would be hired, you just don't get the code to the gate and go start integrating things, right? I mean, there's a whole process of learning and mentorship that happens, and I saw this happen over and over and over again. And I used to be in the construction business, so I know a lot about craftsmanship. So the old craftsman, right? And I used to watch it there as well. And it's that same ethic. And I just wish other industries would adopt that. But well, what can I say? Okay, so Loiane, very nice meeting you. Very nice talking to you. The session is FullStack Reactive with Spring and Angular, and that's at the all-day Java session, which is coming up in a couple of days, I think. And Java Champion, Groundbreaker Ambassador, and well, yeah, hopefully we get to meet live someday when we have real conferences again, right?
Yeah,
can
hope so.
Until then, good luck with everything, and we'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.